DAZN.com. Take over. Last mission. Final boss mode.
Yeah, next. And then in other fuckery news, one Saul Canelo Alvarez, last week he actually filed a lawsuit, against Golden Boy and DAZN and some other affiliates of this.
I think Oscar De La Hoya name was in there too.
Yeah.
Was.
Now, as it was,
Canelo, he let the chopper off on everybody.
Yeah, as
with top-rated opponents.
Yeah. As we all know, Canelo has been in the war because imagine a guy being a champion in having a nonsense belt at 160 and actually being the lineal middleweight champion, and he can't find anybody to fight. The excuse does not work on a lot of people, and especially does not work on Canelo Alvarez.
People seeing the bullshit for what it is with Canelo. People finally open their eyes.
Yeah.
He had to step away from Golovkin and all the hatred Golovkin was getting, so people could finally realize, like, yo, you know what? Canelo is acting like a little bitch right now.
Yeah,
he don't really want to fight nobody. Like,
yeah, no,
it's just people hated Golovkin so much that they overlooked it. It was like, well, shit, make the old man wait. Fuck him. Make him get this amount. Yeah. Eat this cheeseburger. Like, do this, do that. Like, and now that he's fucking up 3 divisions, everybody's like, well, I don't know, Canelo, he ain't moving right.
Yeah, and the funny thing too is when Triple G is like, you know what, I'm gonna go fight my mandatory, and it's like, well, why the fuck Triple G fighting his mandatory then? Canelo says he wants to fight. Like the brains of some of these motherfuckers, man. Like,
I mean, y'all already waited like 3 years for the first fight, like,
right? Yeah, it's like the fucking,
like, y'all let Canelo get away with so much, and now this shit is coming to the point where he rather fight in court than fight a top level opponent.
Exactly, and he's blaming everyone because he said, because he had all these fights that they quote unquote fall through. They fall through with money, money. It's just like, and then another thing too. And then the worst thing that's happened is, I think we mentioned this before, but the WBC ordered a fight for the vacant super middleweight title because Benavidez, can't control his fucking eating. Between Canelo and Avni Yildirim, and then WBC actually gave Canelo a choice of who he wanted to face for that vacant belt, and he said, Yildirim. Yeah, we're gonna go with Yildirim. Shit, and then once that leaked out, and then all hell broke loose. And DAZN, obviously, I mean, Canelo has a big contract. Which in hindsight is probably the
worst contract in sports. He was overpaid ridiculously. Like, no one did their research on Canelo. He was never the really top fighter in America like that. How the top fighter in America don't speak English?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah, and yes, they gave him that contract. And then Canelo, in his 3 fights that he's fulfilled, I mean, one of them was on the level on the paper. It just wasn't a good fight. The other one was BS, and then the other one was a certain type of BS. As in it shouldn't have happened. But it was Canelo's way or no way. And then all of a sudden they're stuck in a situation where Canelo and Avni Yildirim and DAZN does not want to give this motherfucker $33-something million for it. I don't blame them.
For that fight, hell nah. And that's the thing. It's like I think they was gonna give him 17 mil.
Yeah.
For a Smith fight. Like, what the fuck is wrong with that, bro?
Yeah, it's just like, but I think Canelo sticking to is like, you're gonna pay me this money and I'm gonna fight this. And then of course the legal jargon got poured into play. Like, DAZN didn't want this fight, and then it's like DAZN said this, Canelo said that. And DAZN, obviously, I mean, there's some things that, I mean, although it hasn't really been confirmed, but a lot of things that the one thing that's been floating around with them is the premium opponent. Now, obviously, Triple G is the premier opponent. Like that's the whole reason why both Canelo and Triple G they wanted those two fighters because they wanted to get they wanted the subs they would get subs for them and they would actually get they would actually make money in that quarter off that particular fight. But unfortunately, it was not to be. Although at least for Triple G, at least he actually understood that you gotta fight a good fight, and then because his last time out, he gave a top fight of the year classic. You know what I'm saying? So
against the top 5 middleweight.
Yeah, exactly. So it
didn't have 3 divisions to choose from, and didn't produce a dud.
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking exactly. And then Canelo's like, well, why doesn't Triple G have to be forced to do this? Well, Triple G has a different deal from you. Triple G's not getting paid $365 million.
Triple G's not the face of the sport like they thought Canelo was either.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So,
like if you was to put the 10 most popular boxers right now, Triple G is on that list, but he's on the middle lower end of that list. Like if we be honest.
Yeah, he is. That's the truth.
Yeah, it was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So you can't hold the guy who's top 10 to the same standard you hold the guy who's top 1 or 2.
Right, especially the guy that everyone really wants to fight.
Yeah, especially the young guy who's commanding 3 divisions attention, But as far as the lawsuit, it got dismissed early because jurisdiction issues. Canelo's lawyers, the Lionel Hutch lawyer from The Simpsons or whoever.
The lawyer from My Cousin Vinny and shit, nigga.
The lawyer from My Cousin Vinny.
You know what I'm saying? For a man who has this type of standing and status, you would think he'd have a stronger legal team. And then prior to this, funny thing, Oscar is like, Oscar put up a little smug post on Instagram talking about when you have a peace of mind and, showing an old picture of a younger Oscar. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? And then you're like, oh, that's what that means. Pretty much the court threw that shit out because what happened was Canelo put all those defendants on on his lawsuit, but he failed to actually pinpoint where the fail was in their business.
It's like he had some people listed in America, this organization, this company, this, that, and it honestly seems like a public defender put that together.
I wouldn't be surprised too.
I'm expecting like top lawyer shit, not top flight lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't have Golden Boy's legal team behind you, you sometimes you gotta do some shit on your own, and sometimes the quality shows.
He's made the type of money where he could do it on his own, so it's really no excuse, man.
Right. So what happened was the coach was like, "Listen here, bruh. Listen here, Saul. This is bullshit. And I'll have my translator say that to you in Spanish.
Yeah, amend the complaint, please.
Yeah,
and list what actually, because this is the thing, I've seen about several pages of the lawsuit. It's a 24-page lawsuit.
Yeah, I saw it.
Some of it was on Twitter.
Yeah,
and it does a lot of flowery, braggadocious posts on Canelo, and it spends more time explaining who Canelo is than the actual fucking lawsuit.
And some of them, and there was some spelling mistakes in that shit too.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand a few spelling mistakes, but to not have your fucking complaint, not to zero down and focus on, who was at fault and to fuck that up where you got to amend the complaint, and we don't know the deadline for that. So,
well, actually, I think they said he has until the 28th to do that, so he has about 2 weeks, give or take, under 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So the judge gave him a break.
Yeah, he was like, you gotta amend this shit, and then he has
because I've seen some judges make you, amend the complaint. They give you a week to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe he had a little plot armor working for him, but 2 weeks is still, not a lot of time.
Right, and then in this particular, and whatever, and in doing this though, he probably lost some legal advantages, because now it's going to be like, hey, does this lawsuit have any merit? And Golden Boy's lawyers are going to test that motherfucker.
Yeah, because he didn't provide no real proof.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing.
And a lot of things, and what's going to come into play too, is a lot of Canelo's contract information, all that shit. Because honestly, we don't know what Canelo's contract is like for Golden Boy.
Canelo said he never seen it. Like, it's still never been produced. So he's going to have to file a motion for discovery. But if your case isn't compelling enough to even, get to that point, and you have a legit, reason for a motion for discovery, like, because the judge can deny that too.
Yeah, exactly. So Canelo put his legal team or whatever in a very awkward position that they're gonna have to try to defend. Like, I mean,
they put him in a Rocky Juarez down by 9 rounds, and he needs a KO to win the 10th round in the fight. He put his lawyers in that type of situation.
Hell yeah, and it's a good place. And if the amendment is not strong enough, that lawsuit gets thrown out. So
now the judge could dismiss the lawsuit, but if he dismisses with prejudice, then they won't be able to even file it again.
Right, exactly. So
if he dismisses it on some normal shit, they'll have to file it again. And when you're talking about federal lawsuits, especially on this level, I mean, you asking for $280 million, my nigga. That ain't no bullshit little bit of money. So when you get to that level, the lawyers who are filing and doing this shit, they're not just doing this shit for a damn couple $100 or even a couple thousand.
No,
that first lawsuit they filed was probably $10,000.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's probably on the cheap end.
And on top of that, and they're dealing with Golden Boy and especially DAZN. Now, to say DAZN is run by a billionaire. That dude has a legal team. It guarantees you, if Golden Boy's legal team doesn't do missing something, DAZN's will not miss something.
And see, it sounds like a bad communication between Golden Boy and Canelo, more so than it is with Canelo and DAZN.
Yeah,
it almost sounds like Oscar kind of pulled a fast one and got what he could get at Canelo's expense and at DAZN's expense. But instead of Canelo just saying, you know what, fuck it, I know I'm bigger, I'm gonna just go ahead and make these fights. Canelo just been kind of just riding the wave. He's been happy with, not fighting any, good opponents that are, worthy of the hype and of his stature. The fielding was bullshit. Jacobs was cool. That, Kovalev was bullshit. So you got 1 out of 3, and no fight ended up having fireworks or being interesting.
Right.
So there was no new subscribers gained with that shit.
Hell no.
So it was, you lost money, like, if you're DAZN.
Yeah.
So, you can't be happy about that.
Right, and it's just like, so yeah, I mean, I understand DAZN's position, obviously. Yes, Canelo, you're not gonna just, I mean, you gotta fight some real competition, bro, and draw some subscribers, before you start, before we give you an easy one,
Canelo's only point is really that, hey, I signed the contract for this amount, let me get this amount. But it's the nuances that might get him, because they could look at it like, well, we was gonna pay you $35 million for a premier opponent. You haven't done that yet, so yeah, and it's a pandemic. Let's drop that shit down to 17 mil.
Right. But even,
you want more than that? Nah, man. You better fight Saunders. You better fight Smith.
And that's where the whole thing about premier opponents is kind of takes like a different turn. Like, Triple G is a premier is their premier opponent.
Yeah, well, I seen the list of premier opponents, and that was kind of
that was premier comedy.
Yeah, like, I mean, if DAZN is thinking that having this nigga fight MMA fighters as Premier, then that's a DAZN thing. That's a DAZN fail right there because no one wants Canelo to fight those mixed martial artists. He's not retired yet. No one wants to see that shit. So I guess it's more like that's another thing we need clarity on. Like, if DAZN really said that shit, like, shame on DAZN. And if there's no boxing people in the area that said, that's a bad idea, shame on them too. There's no way that should, MMA fighters as premier opponents should ever be anything like that. Means there's some carnies in that motherfucker that is like, don't understand. It's like, MMA is where it's at, buddy. So yes, Canelo, you're gonna fight this guy, instead of a Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders. It's that would be incredible stupidity.
It just sounds like Canelo. He's trying to just have his cake and eat it too. And I know people like, well, if you have a cake, you're supposed to eat it. Yeah, but it seemed like he wants the whole cake, not the slice.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? Like
we'll let you eat a slice, but damn, bro, like, I mean, you gotta wash the dishes or something. Like, it's like he's really cleaning up, and it's like he's stalling 3 divisions, and now Hearn keeps doing this. Well, fuck it. If we don't get the Canelo fight, we'll unify. After we have Saunders and Smith participate in 2 other separate bouts.
Like, God, just make them fight.
And then only doing that so he could still have 2 champions, and in the meantime, it'll see if Canelo's DAZN, the Oscar situation cleaned itself up a little bit. So it's basically we're just biding time.
Right.
Biding our time in 3 different divisions.
Right. It's just like 160. I mean, the WBA should have been stripped. It should have been stripped them. The WBC sort of stripped them, but they made him a franchise champion because Jamal Charlo was his actual mandatory for the WBC, but the WBC didn't want to. It's like, we're not gonna enforce it for Canelo. And they did a whole franchise bullshit. So
it's like you hurting the integrity of the sport, the belts, all of this shit, just because this man don't want to fucking fight.
Right. And
fight anybody, worth a damn.
Right, and because they like the money that he generates, so it's like the WBC and WBA tolerance. The WBA is worse too, because they have 2 other fucking middleweight champions, in that fucking division. One of them is Eubank. The other one is the dude Murata, top rank. And it's just like, let's just say the WBA is like, hey, you know what? We'll get this up. One of those 2 would actually be upgraded as champion, which is just like you just shake your head.
It's like you get a car, you get a belt, you get a belt, everybody get a belt. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
This Oprah's bullshit out of here.
Exactly, like, get this nonsense out of here, And this is where Canelo's just really hurting. Like, the middleweight division is pretty much at a standstill. Middleweight had a nice little run going for now, but I just don't see middleweight, even in this COVID year, making any real impact.
Yup, and then super middleweight, it seemed like something was gonna happen, but then it lost its steam.
Yeah, pretty much the one thing that happened at 168 was Benavidez getting stripped because he couldn't make weight.
That's the only thing that happened. If that happened in any other division, it'd be a footnote. But at 168, it's like a big deal. Like, the most disappointing division in boxing is down 168, super middleweight.
Yeah,
and it's like literally like 50% Canelo fault.
Right, Canelo doesn't even hold a legit belt over. He holds one of them damn, GameStop titles and shit. Yeah. But he's the money man, allegedly. So
allegedly. Like, this is the thing with Canelo, is like people keep saying he's the money man. It's a lot about what people saying and not really what Canelo's producing. Canelo never been on a level where he'll get 1 million pay-per-view for fighting a Joshua Clottey or somebody like that type of stature.
Right.
He's no Pacquiao, he's no Mayweather, He's no De La Hoya. He's no Tyson. He's no Holyfield.
Right.
Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Literally, people only cared about a handful of his fights.
Right, and the only
seemed like years ago.
And the only time he actually broke any of those $1 million barriers, well, it's because either A, he's fighting the son of a legend, or he was fighting actual draws.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the son of a legend is how he's a draw in the sport is one of boxing's biggest. I mean,
you can't blame the DLC pack, bro. Like,
word.
Like, Chavez, people care about him some way, somehow. I don't know, but even then, it's like Canelo kind of fucked that fight up because his fat ass knew he could have been at 168 or 175 back then. Could have fought Chavez Jr. at the full 168 limit or 170 and probably would have got a decent fight out of it. But he drained the man to like 165 and a half or some stupid shit.
164,
Oh yeah, even worse, 164. I think it was a half pound.
Yeah, you see Chavez is probably super ripped, but couldn't, was so lethargic for he left everything in the gym in the sun.
Yeah, so you get an event and you still fucking damn ruin it, and he didn't even stop the guy, so
or knock him down.
So it's like it was a paid sparring infomercial for the first Golovkin fight.
Exactly.
Like I've never seen anybody introduce a fight by having a pay-per-view for it.
Exactly,
So it's like, it's just a lot of these moves Canelo and Oscar and them be making. It's like they want to keep these guys at the same level forever. Like Ryan Garcia is just now stepping up, and he's been bitching and moaning and complaining and saying real shit about this whole situation, and he's just now finally stepping up. And this is the same guy that beat Jason Velez like 2-3 years ago.
Right.
So it's like, what does that tell you? Like, it's something fishy on, something, there's a turd in the punch bowl over there.
Yeah, Golden Boy is, just because they're moving so funny right now, and this is where Oscar is like, Oscar knows, like, he doesn't have too many homes left for Golden Boy, and DAZN actually gave him one. And DAZN should have actually, really, tried to lord over that fact, like, you know what, you need us more than we need you. But they made themselves hosts for some boxing. Like they wanted, it's like, like, please, Oscar, you have to.
They was on some hype beast shit. Like HBO was finished, nothing else was going on for De La Hoya. They wasn't gonna go to Showtime. They ain't gonna fuck with no PBC or ESPN. Like, why did y'all, set yourselves up like that? Y'all just gave Oscar, whatever he wanted, really.
Yeah, and because the other place they can go is the Impact Network. You know what I'm saying? Shit. So it's just like,
yeah, because this is the thing. Canelo was never going to make $35 million a fight, even for pay-per-view. He would have to fight Golovkin and guys on that level, or the Charlo, somebody like that with a name that you could promote and build a hype around.
And the funny thing is too is niggas keep on saying, like, the funny thing is, like, they think that Canelo can just break his contracts like that, and then go to PBC. There's a reason why when Steven Espinoza, like, kind of took some of Golden Boy's fighters over to Allen to create PBC. There was a reason why they didn't touch Canelo's contract, because Canelo's contract is probably a lot more complex than they wanted to deal with. So it's not.
They just had a lawsuit with that where they had to pay out the original people who signed Canelo.
Hell yeah, what I'm saying? So it's like, and Canelo got was lucky that Golden Boy handled that. So
yeah. So and Golden Boy was like probably looking at it like, fuck that. You owe us, bruh. Like, so it's like you made a deal with the devil, and you owe him. Like, now it's like, okay, but the people that you owe, they're gonna really try to milk you. They're not looking at your pound for pound standings and how great you are, and not really believing in you. They're looking at it like, fuck
Yeah,
Fuck it.
yeah.
You know, you're gonna fight this dude for maximum, and no one's gonna beat you. Like, I guarantee you're not gonna win. I mean, you're not gonna lose against this level of competition.
Word.
And then
So
that's
it's
what you
just
have.
like-
You have Canelo, you know, ducking fades in the ring to go to the courtroom. And
Pretty much.
DAZN ain't do no homework with the damn. Y'all listed Oscar as a premier opponent. Y'all listed Jorge or Masvidal. Like, y'all got UFC niggas as premier opponents.
Right. You know, it's just like
So it's like it was all around just a fail for everybody, really.
yeah, it was fails all around. And like I say, this is a real good lesson for anyone trying to get into the game, you know, boxing, you know, to try to be players. Like, you can spend money, like, no, I mean, ain't nothing wrong with spending money to actually try to make money, but you gotta make it. The execution has to make sense. You know, you can,
Yeah, like a fucking men on that. Like, it's like a drug deal, man. You know, wherever you put your money at, you gotta follow the money, man.
right.
You putting it in this dude hand, and he's putting it in this dude hand, and then somebody gonna hit you up later, like, all right, I got it.
Yeah. You know, like, I mean, best
Like, yo, go to the source yourself, or you ride in the car with them and make the move. Like, don't do this. You know, you don't get a cokehead your damn money and say, all right, well, meet me back over here at 3:00, and you know, later on you scrolling through IG and you see a motherfucker in damn fishnet stockings and shit, and he on coke. You're like, damn, then I just give him money for the brick? Like, no. The motherfuckers posting up smug face pictures, selfies, like,
You know, yeah, this whole shit, like, I mean, we hope that maybe that this, you know, first I hope this gets thrown out so they can actually settle this shit and, like, you know, like, get Canelo back on track. I mean, Canelo not fighting in 2020 is looking like it's gonna be a thing.
Yeah. But the honest to God, like, it don't even matter to me, honestly. Like, I don't feel like we missed anything with Canelo not fighting.
Yeah, and that too.
He's the most quiet superstar I think boxing has ever seen. Like, he's one of those, like, no one really, like, usually, like, a superstar, like, outside people outside of their fans and haters care about him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like no one really care about Canelo like that outside of his, like, diehard fans.
Right.
So it's like, and he's not speaking English. He's not over here. He's not in, you know, floating in these circles. So, and his fights haven't been great like that, where you're like, okay, yeah. Who Canelo going? He's not like Oscar, where Oscar was making an event each year.
Right. Exactly.
Canelo has the ability to do that, but he don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like, will I miss him not fighting? Is it bad for the sport? I guess, but will I miss it? Nah, not really.
Nothing of value was lost.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No matter what. No matter.
Only people's time and attention was lost, though.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how people try to spend, like, you know, Canelo was boxing so beautifully in these fights. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you listen to us, like, we've had jokes for his fights, and especially, you know, the Kovalev fight, which was a dud, but then five days later, you know, Monster and Nonita Donaire put on a Stone Cold Classic and brought that shit back to where it needed to be for the zone.
Yeah, had motherfuckers waking up early in the morning to see that Stone Cold Classic.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And usually, and not one of us have regret either. In fact, most of us just wanted to go box after that.
Yeah, that was some Rocky shit. Meanwhile, you know, we waiting for the UFC to finish. You know, Super Bad pulling out a great performance, having a fight of the year caliber of fight.
Yeah.
You know, all this shit going around, and it's like Canelo Kovalev just, you know, it just goes and it just comes and goes, man. Like,
yeah,
like a Clarissa Shields fight, you know. It just come and go. Like, it's cool for the 1 week you talk about it leading up to the fight, I guess.
Bird.
And afterwards, it's like, all right. I mean, you know, they still skilled, but it's just like, they don't transition to the next level of buzz. Like,
No, not at all. Especially in the Jacob fight too. Like, I mean, after the Jacob fight, you know, I mean, that was the first super fight of the year, and it was a dud. And then a month later, you know, we have Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, and that card is like 10 times better than that whole card.
Yeah, he just eclipsed the whole Golden Boy, you know, the whole Canelo fight. And then it's like that fight was buzzing all the way up into the next big fight, which was Thurman Pacquiao and Wyatt Rivas. So it's like like Canelo fights don't even pass the time, bro. Like
Exactly. You know, so you know, yeah. Like I said, the whole thing is sorted too. You know, it's just like, you know, Canelo is gonna
paid him all that money, 11 fights. Y'all lost y'all fucking mind.
Yeah, it's like, you know, for Canelo, it's just like, you know, you gotta find somewhere to get your shit on track, because you don't want to lose your prime in the course, and guarantee you, Golden Boy and DAZN can easily do that, unless you can find a legal loophole to get yourself out of whatever contracts you've signed with them. You know?
Yeah, that's gonna take a good minute, especially with them damn caliber lawyers you got.
Right. And
Nah, he's gonna suffer the same loss Andre Ward suffered.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so for you guys thinking that, oh, it's just easy to go to the BBC, it's not that easy. Like I said, if it was that easy, Al Heyman would have probably sent something to go to Oscar about it, because if Canelo leaves, outside of a legal loophole, if Canelo leaves Golden Boy before whatever the agreement is up, and Al won him, Al's going to have to pay Oscar a lot of money, a lot of money too.
Oh. And that's the thing. Federal lawsuits take time.
Yeah.
Especially the federal lawsuits that are at the 280 million mark.
Yeah. So
no one's rushing that shit, you know, unless they dismissing it off for technicalities and shit that you didn't do your due diligence on. So.
Right.
Yeah, Canelo's probably not gonna fight this year, and it's a shame. But you know, when you look at all the potential hot matchups he had, and this is what you get. But I kind of feel like I'm in a way where I could just be like, I told y'all so.
Yeah.
I mean, Ring Gang's seen it, but all you other people that was doubting us, and you know, and hitting the dislikes in the Canelo episode videos, and. And rolling your teeth and sucking your teeth, rolling your eyes, whatever whole shit you was doing, and you was like, you know, we talking about this shit, and you're like, man, these niggas hate Canelo. Yeah, kind of told you so. Like,
right,
dude don't really care about his legacy like that.
Right. I mean, you have that, and then you have Golden Boy. Golden Boy, now definitely Golden Boy Oscar should really focus on trying to focus the draws. Like, they have a roster. And like I said, Golden Boy's roster, a Golden Boy card is entertaining to watch, you know, except for the Canelo ones.
But yeah, the best cards be without Canelo. So I'm just like, yo, build me a double header with a Ryan Garcia and Virgil Ortiz, you know.
You know, get Superbad on there. You know, get some of the other, you know, some of the other young talent on there. And yeah, like they
throw Diego De La Hoya on there, see what, you know, he could come back or some shit, and
right, and yeah, and you good, you know.
Just do something, man, because this whole Canelo nonsense, this, you know, it's just for the birds, and
right, and then the rest of the roster should not have to suffer for that.
Yeah, because y'all spoiling one dude, and it's like. Everybody's taking the L for that. Like, come on, like,
yeah.
It's the whole label just, you know, just kind of malfunctioning. You know, thank the boxing gods Ryan Garcia getting the Luke Campbell fight.
I know what I'm saying, like,
jeez,
yeah.
Like, I don't have no hope for anybody over there, man. But I think we kind of talked about this, you know, this bullshit enough, man. Like, I almost feel disgusted, you know. You suing because you don't want to fight nobody. The fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, that's boxing for you. So yeah, like, you know, stay tuned, because I mean, obviously this shit ain't over yet. You know, but